Fellows and ladies, welcome to the first post-show review of WWE Raw for January 6, 2025. This was the first Raw on Netflix, and if I'm to be brutally honest about it, I was a little underwhelmed with tonight's show. I think WWE played it really safe tonight with everything that happened, with the outcomes in the match, with the legends that they had on the show. They only had like Hulk Hogan and the Undertaker. Those were the only two that kind of made any appearance besides the obvious, The Rock and Triple H. I mean, they're in charge, but other than that, nothing really happened. Like I said, it was kind of a simple, cut and dry, predictable, very long show. It had a really good, really nice pay-per-view feel to it, but other than that, nothing really excited me here. Nothing really left me with a feeling like, man, that was an awesome show. Not to say that it wasn't a good show, it just wasn't a great show. But might as well get into it. We had some big matches tonight. We had Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa, CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley for the Women's Championship, and a match that I honestly forgot about, but I think they kind of just shoehorned it in there as of last Friday on SmackDown, was Jey Uso versus Drew McIntyre. But we'll get to that in a second. Might as well get going here. So, Raw essentially opened up with this honestly pretty nice video package of professional wrestling, WWE throughout the years and everything, and I enjoyed that. I thought it was pretty well made. I thought it was really nice considering the circumstances. We're on fucking Netflix for all intents and purposes. It's a pretty big fucking deal, but yeah, other than that, nothing much to really say about the video package. It looked cool. I liked the art the guy was doing. That there was a dude in the video package painting. It reminded me of that guy they used to have on the YouTube channel. If you guys remember, I don't know if maybe you don't, but there was this guy that used to do paintings for WWE superstars and stuff back in the day on their YouTube channel. I don't know if that was him, but if it is, cool. Shout out to him. Triple H opens the show to hype the crowd, does his basic stuff, asking us, are we ready? Yes, we are, Paul. Yes, we are. We're ready to see what you got cooking for us tonight. Triple H welcomes us to the Netflix era. While he was talking, I noticed the ring Uh, they had those, the logos with the black mat on the ring. If you're on Twitter, you saw that already. Um, I think it's fine. I could use without the big giant Fortnite logo in the middle of the ring, but sure, I guess I'll get used to it. Um, right now, though, not a big fan of it. The Rock walks out. The Rock walks out, holding the People's Championship. He speaks on how WWE is being watched all over the globe by Netflix users everywhere. Talks about how this venue had the largest gate in the history of WWE. So, like, basically saying they sold out. They sold a lot of fucking tickets. They sold a lot of fucking seats. And how couldn't you have? It's the first Raw of Netflix. Of course, you sold a lot of seats. But, it's still great. This is still a momentous occasion. We're shouting out, the milestones. We got a big turnout tonight. Um, The Rock calls out Cody Rhodes, says thank you to Cody Rhodes for carrying the company on his back for over a year, which he has. I'm not, you know, I'm not one of those guys that's gonna complain about Cody Rhodes' title run. I think his title run is fine. Um, could it have used a little more excitement? Sure, but that's what we're here now for. We got Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes in a few weeks. So that should hold us open for a while. It's already looking pretty meaty in terms of implications in an exciting feud. Um, he also tells Cody, tell Mama Rose that The Rock says hello. Now, obvious callback to when he was beating the ever living shit out of Cody Rhodes with his belt outside um, a few months ago before WrestleMania. That kind of brings me to my question, like, are we going back to that at all? Are we breaking kayfabe just to break kayfabe? Are we just doing it to promote Netflix? Either way, in my opinion, it kind of feels like you ruined. It feels like you ruined some of the aspects of the bloodline storyline in a way. Because you got someone who's supposed to be the final boss, someone who's supposed to be the big bad in this story, just coming out, hyping the crowd up, being a run of the mill babyface, thanking everybody. Thanks Cody Rhodes. He talks about Roman Reigns, talks about how, he'll be watching the tribal combat match very closely. And that was as close as we got to getting back into who The Rock was in this storyline. He said he would watch the match closely. And I guess we did. We didn't really get like any type of camera cut backstage to Gorilla or one of the backstage monitors having The Rock having The Rock fucking watching the monitor. That'd have been nice, a little extra thing to eat on to hold us over with this storyline. Because after tonight, I'm honestly kind of confused as to where we're going, if that makes sense. But we'll get to that. We'll keep moving here. After The Rock finishes opening the show up, Solo Sikoa versus Roman Reigns is the first match of the night. This is the fight for the one true tribal chief. This is that match. So Roman and Solo both make their entrances. Um, Solo is alone. Roman Reigns is followed by his wise man, Paul Heyman. Um, they both do their entrances. Solo's introduced. Paul Heyman introduces Roman Reigns. Um, before the match starts, Solo removes the ulafala. As he's doing that, a lot of "fuck you, Solo" chants from the crowd. As he hands the ulafala to Paul Heyman. Once Paul Heyman takes the ulafala, the match starts. The two essentially just circle each other for a bit before they get into a pretty standard collar and elbow tie up. It's a long struggle. Both competitors are kind of forcing each other to the mat, sort of fighting back each other's grip, something like that. Eventually, Roman tosses Solo outside of the ring as Reigns follows him. It's another back and forth segment outside. Both are giving off pretty good offensive attacks towards each other until Solo inevitably takes control outside. He throws Reigns into the announce table, then back into the ring. And he hits Roman Reigns with a clothesline as the crowd boos him. Roman is on the ground as Solo gives him multiple headbutts, but Reigns fights back, eventually getting Solo to the corner and hits him with multiple clotheslines in the corner, climbs up, hits those, standard turnbuckle punches in the corner. He hits 10 of those. But as Roman ends up trying to attempt a running strike, Solo ends up countering that and takes control. But Roman counters again and throws Solo outside of the ring. So, pretty contentious fight, pretty straightforward back and forth competition here. So far, I thought the match was fine, nothing to complain about, but also nothing to really, call out as good. It was kind of standard. So Solo hits Roman with this Renagi onto the announce table, and then smacks Roman with a monitor as he climbs on the table and does, puts the one in the air. Solo goes for the steel steps, throws him at Roman Reigns. And then we kind of just go into a commercial break. But after the break, Solo grabs one chair, throws in the ring, grabs another chair, throws in the ring. So there are two chairs into the ring. Hits Roman with a gut shot with one of the chairs. And then hits him with another shot in the back. And then he kind of unloads on Reigns for a while, throws him into the corner, and starts, yelling at Roman, telling him, I loved you. I was doing this for you. I was doing this to make you proud, to make you happy, stuff like that, which reminds me a lot of, how Roman was when he first became the tribal chief. If you remember when Roman first went up against Jey Uso, he was, yelling at Jey Uso telling him to acknowledge him, telling him he loved him, stuff like that. It was interesting to see that parallel, and it kind of had me wondering, how's this match gonna turn out? I was thinking, honestly, thinking about this match going in. Um, it really looked like Solo was the guy to win here. At least to me, I thought Solo was gonna win the whole thing. I thought this feud was gonna continue because I think, well, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just continue. Um, Solo ends up putting a chair over Roman's head, wedges it onto his neck. Um, he's going for that big Samoan hip attack, but before he can hit, Roman gets out of the way, grabs chair, and unleashes all these blows on Solo's back. Solo's on the ground. He's basically face down on a chair. Roman grabs another chair, tries to go for a concerto, but Solo counters, hits Roman with a low blow, hits a spinning Solo onto the chair for a 2 count. Solo grabs the chair and throws it away to grab a table. But he didn't notice that Roman slipped out of the ring on the other side just to get hit with, Roman's signature drive-by. From there, Roman grabs the table and puts it in the ring, sets it up. He goes to grab Solo Sikoa, but Solo has a kendo stick and slaps Roman in the head with it. Uh, with that happening, Solo goes back into the ring, hits Reigns with multiple kendo shots, drives Reigns into the corner, starts choking him with the kendo stick, starts, talking and yelling at him again, saying how, he loved him same as before. Uh, but as he's choking and yelling at Reigns, Reigns starts to fight back. He eventually pushes Solo up, getting out of the choke, has Solo in like this last ride powerbomb position and slams him onto the table. So he goes for that pin. Tama Tonga comes out, grabs the referee from the ring, and pulls him out. So that's saving Solo, keeping him alive in this match. As Roman is like, what the hell just happened? He's looking at Tama Tonga. They're both like eyeing each other. While he's doing that, Jacob Fatu is in the ring, blindsides Roman Reigns before Roman Reigns can react, hits Roman Reigns with a super kick, then hits Roman Reigns with the moonsault. Jacob Fatu gets Solo to stand up. Solo goes for the Samoan spike, but that only ends up being a 2 count. Roman Reigns kicked out of all of that, which is crazy to me, but we don't have to talk about that part. Um, well, Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga are like, they're like arguing with the referee now because, the referee counted too slow or some shit. Solo gets up, basically tells Jacob, you're like, oh, hey, calm down, I'll back up, telling Tama Tonga to back up too, only to hit the referee with a Samoa spike himself. Um, so now the official's taken out. Zayn and Jimmy Uso come out. Sami Zayn and Jimmy Uso come out to Roman Reigns' help. They end up attacking Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga. End up taking those two out. End up hitting hit Solo with a super kick, hit Solo with a haluva kick. Roman hits a spear. Uh, they go for a count, but there's no referee. Another referee comes out, and then he kicks out at 2. The crowd's chanting, "This is awesome." At this point, the match is pretty awesome. I can say that I was enjoying the match. I still wasn't aware of who was going to win it, but I was enjoying the match. Um, Roman Reigns calls for another spear, but ends up getting stopped by Kevin Owens, who ends up stunning Roman Reigns. And Kevin Owens is like calling for Solo to get the pin, calling for Solo to finish it already. Solo goes for the pin, but Roman kicks out at 2. Kevin Owens is like mad as shit, starts like beating on Roman, punch after punch after punch on Roman to get this dude down. Um, Obviously, Cody Rhodes' music hits. We knew Cody Rhodes was eventually going to come out. I was waiting for it. At some point, I was like, geez, Cody Rhodes sure is taking a long time to save Roman Reigns, but he ended up coming out there, ended up taking care of KO. Those two end up, falling into the crowd, end up fighting to the back through the crowd. Um, well, Kevin Owens is taken care of now. Reigns and Solo are back to their feet. Superman punch countered into a Samoa spike, but Roman's also countered that Samoan spike into a spear and then hits another spear. And with that spear, Roman Reigns won the match. Yeah, so Roman Reigns won the match. Kind of disappointed in that outcome because it's like, now what? Now what's going to happen? And I thought something interesting was going to happen when we saw The Rock come out. The Rock came out with no music whatsoever. He didn't come out with like any type of cue at all. He just like walked out. He walks up to the ring, gives like this little side look to Solo, who's like outside of the ring beaten. I thought that was interesting. Maybe there's some implications there. I'm keeping an eye on it, but Roman Reigns is just like watching The Rock walk to the ring. The Rock enters the ring, and he approaches Paul Heyman. He's essentially asking Paul if he can, if he can hold the ulafala. Paul Heyman gives The Rock the ulafala, and The Rock is the one who gives the ulafala back to Roman Reigns. And that is how that part of the show ends. Yeah. So overall, good match, safe outcome. Kind of disappointed at the end of the day because nothing happened. It was kind of, you know, Roman Reigns versus Solo. Solo wins, or Roman wins. Roman is the tribal chief again. Okay? So now what are we going to do with the bloodline up until WrestleMania? Everything's kind of taken care of. The Rock is not in his, bad guy persona. Is he going to get back into his bad guy persona? Hopefully. Uh, we'll have to see for the future. Only, I know tonight, uh, there's a lot left to be desired and a lot of questions that are left to be answered in terms of the bloodline. But moving forward here, After the Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa match, John Cena comes out. Um, there's Cena chants, there's thank you Cena chants, and this is obviously well deserved. Um, and it was kind of surreal seeing John Cena again. It was kind of nice seeing John Cena again. I actually like genuinely almost teared up a bit seeing John Cena, knowing that this was like going to be one of his last times wrestling. It was kind of a surreal thing. John Cena was wrestling, I think, before even I was born, man, and it was, we I think we all owe a lot to John Cena when it comes to wrestling. Even the people that don't watch wrestling, everyone knows who John Cena is. And if you don't know who John Cena is, happy birthday! You were just born today. Um, but let's continue. Cena says he he calls the crowd smart, which I thought was funny because, in my opinion, the IWC is anything but sometimes, especially you people on Twitter. But he talks about his history in LA, talks about, where he came from, the origins of the prototype, the origins of John Cena himself in LA. He says thank you to LA. He says, when does John Cena become the 17-time world champion? If you ask me, hopefully never. If this is your last time around the sun, John, I don't think having another title run benefits anyone but you, if that makes sense. I guess I'm not necessarily talking to John, but I'm talking like in general. I don't think having John Cena become a 17-time world champion would be good for whoever's champion. Like, whoever he beats to be champion, if they do that. Like, say he's going up against Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. He beats Cody Rhodes. Okay, and now John Cena's champion for what? Like a day, a week, for a few months at most, and then he just drops it. And then what? They have like this big tournament because Triple H likes to do tournaments. This big number one contenders tournament to see who will be the next WWE champion or something like that, or do they do something different? Do they give it back to Cody after a few months at the end of John Cena's farewell tour? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not entirely on board with that idea, if that's the idea. Um, but John Cena himself says he doesn't see the 17th title win happening. He talks about how it's been over 2,000 days since he last won his last match, which I thought was interesting. Says it would be a miracle to win his 17th title run. Says, maybe he shouldn't say never, but it would be a miracle to win his 17th title. And this was all just to allude to him announcing that he will be in the Royal Rumble. So basically, already what we kind of figured, John Cena will be in the Royal Rumble in 3 weeks. Don't know what number he'll be in. I'm assuming either number 1 or number 30. And I mean, he's my pick to win. Not my favorite to win, but I definitely think he's just gonna end up winning the whole thing because it's his farewell tour and we have to do something nice for John Cena at the end of his career. But that's basically all John Cena said. He confirmed his involvement in the Royal Rumble, and then he left. After John Cena, it was Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley. Strong start for both during their match. It was they had a little bit of a back and forth exchange at the beginning, but Rhea eventually took control. Rhea ends up throwing Liv outside of the ring, hits a cannonball on Raquel, who tries to defend Liv Morgan. While this is happening, Liv Morgan goes back into the ring. Rhea follows after, only to be distracted by Dom. Dominic grabs her leg, and while Dominic's grabbing her leg, Liv tries to capitalize on this distraction, but Rhea manages to counter Liv Morgan's distraction and slam Liv onto the announce table. And from there, we go into commercial break, which is kind of crazy because when we got back from the commercial break, Liv Morgan was in control. Like, we leave with Rhea in control, we come back with Liv Morgan in control. But I guess if you're overseas on Netflix, you don't have commercials, so lucky you. I'm not. So after the break, Rhea Ripley's in the corner, while Liv Morgan is like sort of in control, but Rhea Ripley reverses in the corner. But Liv Morgan ends up regaining control, hits like this alternate bulldog out of the corner for a 2 count. And Liv Morgan continues to attack Rhea Ripley while she's down. Despite all that, Rhea Ripley gets up. Rhea Ripley hits her comeback, those sequence of moves that she does. Hits a nice looking running shining wizard on Liv, and kind of lifts her up in this weird small package looking thing. I thought she was gonna go for a riptide, but she ends up not going for a riptide. Ended up going for a suplex instead, and then lifts Liv up for another suplex, a released German suplex for a 2 count. After this 2 count, Rhea Ripley goes for a riptide that Liv reverses into a backstabber. Puts Rhea Ripley back into the corner and hits a tornado or another move on Rhea Ripley, a tornado DDT that ends in a 2 count for Liv Morgan. Rhea Ripley ends up getting up from this as Liv Morgan hits this step up enziguri, but Rhea kind of eats that, catches Liv into another riptide for a 2 count. After this, Dominic slides the women's championship belt onto the ring to distract the referee. Referee grabs the belt. While the referee's grabbing the belt, Raquel's on the other side of the ring, slides in a steel chair. And while everybody's distracted, Liv Morgan hits Rhea Ripley onto the steel chair with Oblivion, but it still ends up with a 2 count. After this 2 count, Liv Morgan sets up Three Amigos, hits it. She goes up top, does the Eddie Guerrero frog splash for another 2 count. Goes for a final Oblivion, but Liv Morgan intercepts it, shakes her head no, puts Liv Morgan into her Uranagi, then ends up hitting 1 riptide, 2 riptides, pins Liv Morgan for the 1, 2, 3. Rhea Ripley's your new champion. And while she's celebrating, while she's holding the belt, here comes Dominic Mysterio for one of the most obvious spots of the night. He's going for a hug for no clear reason and ends up getting hit with a riptide. Look, we all knew it was coming. Some of you have been, clamoring for it, asking for it. You got your wish. Dominic was hit with the riptide, and this feud is thankfully over. This Liv Morgan Rhea Ripley feud was one of the most boring feuds that WWE had produced in the past year. I am very glad that it's over. Um, but what does this entail? Well, the loser Judgment Day has cemented themselves once more as nothing more than a group of losers. Um, and Rhea Ripley now has no challengers. I don't know who she's going to challenge. We'll just have to wait and see. I personally didn't really see Rhea Ripley winning this match, but here's just WWE playing it safe once again. So that's 2 matches so far where they took the safe route and they chose not to subvert expectations. They chose to keep it predictable. I'm not saying they went for predictable, but it felt predictable. Everyone you essentially felt was going to win won in the end. Roman Reigns beat Solo Sikoa. Rhea Ripley beat Liv Morgan. But, you know, let's continue. Before Rhea Ripley goes to the back, she ends up running into The Undertaker. Her and The Undertaker share a moment with the crowd. If you thought that was cool, cool. I thought it was whatever. It wasn't really anything special in my opinion. This kind of felt like one of those, you know, intermissions in between matches for a match that you don't really care about. You got this legend that you call in to like just make a small appearance with this new up and coming or this new champion, what have you. It's pretty much the same thing. But after that, there's this backstage segment. Nothing special here. It's just Kathy Kelly. I think Kathy Kelly talking to Adam Pearce. Chad Gable walks in. Essentially, this is just a setup to say that Chad Gable will be facing Penta next week on Raw. That's all that is. So, no Penta tonight. We'll be getting Penta next week against Chad Gable. That's kind of all we got from that segment. Jey Uso versus Drew McIntyre up next. Jay comes out with Travis Scott, which was interesting. Travis Scott was apparently smoking weed, smoking a blunt. More power to him. It's Netflix. I guess we can do a little bit extra, even though the show's still PG. So Travis Scott comes out with Jey Uso. Drew McIntyre comes out afterwards, but Jey Uso attacks Drew McIntyre during his entrance. Jey Uso goes for another through the middle rope dive onto the outside on Drew, but Drew intercepts it and takes him down outside. Gives Jay some chops outside the ring. Um, Ends up pushing Jay back into the ring. Goes for a Claymore. The bell's rung at this point. Goes for a Claymore, but Drew dodges the Claymore. Irish Rip. The two go back and forth again. Jay tries to Irish Rip Drew, but Drew reverses it and then ends up mocking the Yeet chants, mocking the Yeet stuff. He was doing that. Drew's in control at this point. He's in the corner giving chops to Jey Uso. Jey Uso's cowering in the corner. Hits some turnbuckle punches. Jey Uso ends up fighting back, hits Drew McIntyre with a sit-out powerbomb, leaving both men down. But Jey Uso's still building momentum. Drew kind of crawls to a corner as Jay sets up a hip attack, lands the hip attack, goes up, crossbody for the 2 count. Drew McIntyre ends up getting back up, hits Jay with a neck breaker, and kips up. Calls for another Claymore, but Jay catches Drew with a kick for the 2 count. Jey Uso goes up top, tries for an Uso splash, but gets reversed by Drew, who gets his knees up on Jay. Sets up a powerbomb for a 2 count. Jay gets up, tries for a. Sorry, I missed something. Drew goes for a spine buster, hits the spine buster for a 2 count. Then it's another power bomb after that for another 2 count. Jay eventually gets up, goes for a Samoan drop, but it gets reversed into a future shock for another 2 count. Drew calls for another Claymore, but Jay intercepts into a spear for a 2 count. The two go back and forth some more. Another Claymore gets hit for another 2 count. Some ground and pound, some corner shots. Jay falls before Drew lands another Claymore. So it was like Drew went back, set up a Claymore, and as Jay was walking into it, about to get hit, he kind of just fell over. And with that whole thing, Drew's laughing at Jay while he's down, calls for another Claymore, but that Claymore kind of gets reversed into a roll-up pin. Jey Uso wins that match. So we are 3 for 3 in terms of unexciting finishes and blatant predictability with no surprise, no story implications. Kind of just all these stories are getting wrapped up and that's it. I mean, maybe this is a clean slate for stuff to come. We don't know. After that match, we kind of get this backstage segment with Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman trying to pick a date to celebrate his win, his reclaiming of the ulafala, his reclaiming of the Tribal Chief title. Roman Reigns says January 27th. More than likely, January 27th is the release date trailer for WWE 2K25, and Roman Reigns is the cover star for that. So that's probably all that was about. After that, Hulk Hogan comes out, tries to speak to the crowd, tries to promote his beer, tries to hype up Raw on Netflix, gets booed out of the arena. Don't feel bad for the guy. He's kind of been polarizing for a few years. I don't know what WWE expected. I don't know what Hulk Hogan expected, especially this day and age with, you know, everything that's happened in the past few months since November. I don't know what Hulk Hogan thought was gonna happen, but he absolutely got booed out of the fucking place. So yeah, good for him, right? Um, CM Punk versus Seth Rollins is our main event. Uh, they make their entrances. The two stare each other down. Kind of a back and forth between them. Rollins gets pushed into the corner, then gets pushed outside. Punk dives and hits it. Turns it around outside. Rollins clears the announce table. Yells at the ref to let it ride, basically saying, don't count us out. We're just gonna fight. Don't count us out. Basically, what Rollins was yelling at the ref to do. And I guess the ref kind of listens because even CM Punk later in the match kind of basically tells the ref the same thing. Basically saying, "Don't count. We're just gonna fight," and that's kind of what they did. Uh, so the two are fighting some more. Rollins gets sentenced in the crowd. CM Punk ends up jumping onto him, and then the two fight more in the crowd. The two are just going back and forth into the crowd. They end up going back to ringside. Rollins jumps from the barricade, but Punk counters it. CM Punk throws Rollins back into the ring. Rollins goes for the stomp, but Punk ends up rolling out of the way. Punk goes for the GTS, but Rollins counters that. And then eventually forces CM Punk to the ground. CM Punk ends up rolling to the corner as Rollins is still on him, doing damage in the corner now. Rollins continues to argue with the ref as when he turns back into CM Punk reverses it and hits like a boot to his face. So now CM Punk is up and Rollins is down. CM Punk kind of lifts Rollins in this suplex like thing, lifts him up into the air, drops him onto the ropes, and then goes up top, grabs Rollins, forces him up top with him, and hits this spinning neck breaker from the top. And we enter a commercial break after that. So far, I thought this match was great. This was easily already the best match of the night. So we come back from the commercial break. It's kind of like back and forth. Both wrestlers are a little bit gassed, but Rollins ends up gaining some breathing room, pushing CM Punk back a little bit. CM Punk ends up in the corner. Rollins starts giving him some slaps, throwing some slaps at him, smacking him in the face. Goes for a running attack, but CM Punk intercepts it by meeting Rollins in the other corner with a running knee. Throws him into the other corner, hits another running knee, then calls for the GTS. But Seth Rollins rolls aside, giving CM Punk. I'm missing it. I'm messing up here. As CM Punk calls for the GTS, Seth Rollins rolls outside. Punk goes to grab him and then hits a net breaker outside onto the ropes and then hits Rollins with another dive. He throws Rollins back in the ring, goes up top, but hits Rollins with this crossbody there. Seth Rollins ends up rolling through, still holding CM Punk like in his arms, which he does this once in a while, and hits CM Punk with a GTS. But after getting hit with that GTS, CM Punk rolls outside. Um, Seth goes to grab him, throws him back inside. As Seth is going back inside to apparently do a pin, CM Punk hits, the curb stomp. But that only gets a 2 count. Um, then I guess Seth Rollins hits CM Punk, tries to call for another GTS, but that gets caught. Seth Rollins goes for his own GTS, which results in a 2 count. Um, at this point, I was a little checked out though, mostly because of all the other matches. It kind of threw me off a bit. I felt like, okay, so if every other match is ending kind of predictably, what's to say this match won't end the same way? So I was already assuming, okay, CM Punk is gonna win at the end of the day. So I was just waiting for that. To like continue to throw shots towards each other. It's like this back and forth thing. They're both exhausted. They're both like on their knees, punching each other in the face. The two get up. Um, Back and forth slaps. Seth Rollins tries to initiate a comeback, but that gets reversed by CM Punk. Uh, CM Punk tries to go for a high knee, but Seth Rollins reverses that, hits a buckle bomb. From that buckle bomb, we get uh, we get a curb stomp. Seth Rollins hits CM Punk with a curb stomp, only results in another 2 count. This is awesome chants from the crowd, and it was a great match. Definitely match of the night for me. Um, Seth Rollins puts CM Punk up top, but CM Punk fights back as Seth Rollins falls, but Seth Rollins ends up climbing back up, ends up hitting CM Punk with this superplex, goes for a Falcon Arrow, but gets reversed into the GTS. And then Seth Rollins lands in this weird way, ends up falling back onto CM Punk's shoulder. CM Punk hits another GTS for the 1-2-3. And there you go. Again, another predictable win, but the match was good. Definitely match of the night. And that's kind of all that happened tonight. There wasn't any real meat on the bones of this show tonight. It was kind of just, like I said at the beginning, it was kind of just a show. It kind of just, it just felt predictable to me. It's unfortunate because I was expecting, with everything hyped up, with all the hype packages, with all the material that was going into this, with months in advance hyping up this huge change to Monday Night Raw, the first ever Raw on Netflix of all things. And it just, in my opinion, kind of just meets expectations, and that's it. Um, Kind of all I got today. Pretty sure my co-host fell asleep, so you just had to hang out with me tonight. Um, doesn't look like there are any comments, so I'm just gonna head to sleep. From here, I will be back on Wednesday covering AEW Dynamite, seeing how that goes. We'll see how they fare against this week's Monday Night Raw. And then after Dynamite, we'll be back on Friday for SmackDown. So, if you enjoyed the stream, drop me some likes. Follow if you aren't following already. And yeah, thanks for coming by. Thanks for listening to me ramble. I'm a little tired, if you can't tell, but it is late. I'll get used to it in the future. These are only going to get better. So, again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And I'll catch you guys next time.